Hi guys, welcome to this month's Q&A. I know I'm a few days late here. Can't believe it's July already. Usually I try to get these out, the last part of the month, but I guess this will have to do. So in case you're new to my channel, my name's Mary and I love to share the many projects I have going on around here with you all. And I do my best to answer some of the questions that you guys leave in the comments. And I always like to say, it's not that your question isn't important if I don't address it, it's just that I can't get to them all. So we just randomly go through and pick some out, and hopefully this can be a help to someone. So let's get right to it. The first questions are from last month's Q&A. So Maria is asking how I decide when to spray or brush paint. I often just go by the weather sometimes. If the weather's really nice outside and I want to spray or I want to paint a piece of furniture, I usually try to, spray paint it. But during the winter, of course, I can't really do that, so I end up brushing or rolling. And then as far as, some little items that I pick up in thrift stores, I will sometimes just spray paint with a can that you buy, at Walmart or your hardware. That's really easy sometimes to just, especially if a piece has, a lot of little corners and edges to get into. It's just easier to spray versus brush. It's not that I really prefer one or the other. It's just, I think it's, quicker sometimes to just spray paint versus, brushing, but I still love to use my brush too. So it just kind of depends, I guess. So Special Gifts LA is saying, I'd really like to start a channel to show my creative work. Do you have any advice or have you had any obstacles? I will just be honest here. When I started YouTube, I probably said this before, but I was pretty naive to the whole YouTube thing. I barely even watched any videos. Once in a while, maybe I'd watch one. But I remember one day watching someone paint a piece of furniture, and just watching it just looked so satisfying, and I almost got itchy hands, because right then I wanted to be painting. And I thought how neat that would be if I could somehow inspire people, because I'd been painting all my life, ever since I can remember. Even as a young girl, I just loved painting. And I thought, if I could somehow just share some of my projects that I do and just, bring some cheer into one's life, what more do I want? And I, of course, prayed about it, and I just felt like it's something I should be doing. So I made that first video. Again, I'm not even going to advise you guys to go watch it, because I just cringe when I watch some of those first ones. In fact, I cringe when I watch any of my videos. Usually by the time I'm finished editing, I just never ever watch them again. But I feel like it's gotten better for me already. Some of my biggest obstacles were probably just being able to be comfortable in front of the camera. Still not always the easiest for me, but back, those first, even that first year, I just felt like I had a lot of fill-in words, like the ums and the ands and the so's, and I still do that a lot more than I wish, but I think it's gotten some better. And as far as advice, I would just want to encourage you to not worry about what people say, especially in your comments, because you will get, very critical comments. Everyone does. And I guess it's never really bothered me that much, but once in a while I will get a comment or someone saying something that I think, is it really that way? Do I appear that way? But then I just think, no, I'm not going to let that one little comment bother me. So I would advise you to not, worry about that. Just be yourself. And then the other thing is just set a schedule to make sure you get at least a video a week out. That was hard for me at first. I know I didn't really have a schedule. I'm not sure. I think I just posted whenever I got the chance. And I really have enjoyed doing this since I just made my Wednesday at 9 o'clock usually is when I publish a video. And it's just been easier to have that set schedule. Someone that I watch on YouTube that has really motivated me is Sean Cannell. He has the Think Media channel. Some of you may have heard of that, but he is such an energetic person, and he will just encourage you to just start making those videos. Don't just think about it, just start making them. You have nothing to lose, and you don't need all this fancy equipment to start out. Just go watch him. He has lots of good tips on how to start a channel. I know that got kind of long there, but again, just be yourself and have fun, and just if you're doing what you love to do, people are going to want to watch you, I think. Wilma is asking, how many years are you married? We have been married for 22 years. June 4th was our anniversary. So Danielle is saying, I know you mentioned earlier about possibly selling skirts. Can you give an update? I put this question on here to remind me to bring this up. Many of you had asked about this, and way back in maybe January or February, I told you guys that I'm planning on opening a skirt shop. I still am, but you will not believe stuff that has happened this spring already. Well, you know, it's been a crazy year to begin with, but our Etsy shop, White Cottage Company Etsy shop, just went crazy. I'm not complaining about this. It's been such a big blessing. It's been so much fun. But I admit, for the first time in my life, I almost felt like I bit off more than I could chew. We actually ended up having more sales in April than we had the whole year of 2019. And I apologize to some of you. I'm sure some of you are customers that ordered items from my shop, and we did not always get our orders out on time. I'm sorry for that. I feel we're still really busy, but it's slowed down just a bit. But I am still planning on, back to the skirts here, opening this shop eventually. So what I plan to do is create my own website, which I already made it, but I just haven't put anything on it yet, where I want to sell my skirts on, and then eventually move all the items in my present Etsy shop over to the website, just have everything together. That's my plan, and that's probably why it's taking longer, because you guys know me, I want to do everything myself. So just whenever I get a chance, which isn't very often, I work on that website. And of course we need to take pictures, create those listings. It just takes a lot of time. I promise you guys I'm still planning on doing it. I'm so excited for it. And the skirts that I plan to start out with, at least, are just mostly those very comfortable knit skirts. What I'm wearing right now, just very basic with elastic along the top, different lengths you can order them in, some pretty designs, and I even have some seamstresses that are going to sew for me. Of course, I can't do this all myself. So I will definitely keep you updated and make sure to announce it here on my channel once I actually have the site up and running. So thank you for staying patient with me. So the next question here is, I have a question for you, and maybe you've answered it already, but what does your husband do? I'm not sure that I've ever really addressed that. It might not have come up ever, but he is a trucker. We were, of course, Amish most of our lives, so he wasn't able to do that, and it's always been a dream of his to drive semi. So once we were, not Amish anymore, got our licenses, he soon looked into getting his CDL. So he has his Class A CDL, loves driving semi. I'm so happy for him because I know it's what he loves to do. In fact, we've already talked about it. He could easily come work at home here every day if he'd want to, help me out with the business I have going on. But we kind of like it this way. He's doing what he likes to do, and I'm doing what I love to do. Maybe a future thing someday, maybe, but for now I would hate to, have him not do what he loves to do just because I need his help here at home. So the next set of questions are from the garden tour, my sister's garden tour. Elonda Patterson asks, I have lots of shade in my yard too. Wanted to know if you all have wild animals that come eat your plants and flowers, and if so, what do you do about it? Honestly, we don't have a lot of issues with that for some reason. I'd say, chipmunks and squirrels dig up some of my bulbs that I plant in the fall, like the tulip bulbs. And I had a few issues with some deer chewing on my tulip leaves this spring, but nothing too major. They ended up growing out nicely and you could barely tell. I don't know, is it, living here in the woods, they have enough other things to chew on that they don't really come into our yards. But so far, so good, I guess. So the next comment here is, the grounds are spectacular and Deeks is so cute. I agree on both of those. How does she keep the garden so weed-free? She hand pulls a lot of the weeds, which I do the same thing, and she also uses a product called Burnout. It's a weed killer, but it's not quite as toxic as your Roundup would be. Annie asks, how do you water your gardens? Do you use sprinklers or drip irrigation? We actually here in Ohio get a lot of rain, so we rarely have to sprinkle or water, thankfully. Now and then we get a dry spell where we do some sprinkling, and then of course pots often need to be watered, and then we'll just use the hose or the watering can. So the next question here is Linda Cooper saying, beautiful gardens, what kind of snakes do you have in your gardens? They scare me. How do you guys handle the snakes? You can imagine with all the rocks we have around here, we of course have snakes, unfortunately. You know, garter snakes is probably the one we see the most. We do have black snakes around here too, and I don't even like to kill anything. I'm just not, I feel like it's not the snake's fault that it's here. You know, why are we just hate those snakes and just always want to kill them. I admit sometimes if I know that there's one around, like in my gardens, or I'll just kind of pretend I don't see it. I know that's kind of weird, but sometimes I don't even want to address it. I just kind of hope it goes away. The next question is, I would like to know how many years she has been working on this garden, my sister's garden. I adore the rocks, stepped walkways, stacked walled gardens, and unique bench seating. Yeah, I agree. Everything's so beautiful out there. I asked her about that, you know, how many years she's actually been working on it. And she said probably around 20 years. So of course, you know, that all didn't happen just in an instant. A lot of that stuff, you know, takes time, but yeah, they've definitely made it really beautiful. So the next questions are from the Trash to Treasure video. The first question here is, the fact that you do everything in your regular clothes and never seem to get anything on you is a thing of wonder. I literally have a set of old paint and oil stained clothes I wear whenever I do any projects. How do you keep your hands looking smooth and unblemished without wearing gloves? I love your channel. Well, thank you. Thanks for the kind comment. And thank you guys for all these kind comments. I don't always get to, you know, I sometimes forget to mention that, but I appreciate it. But yeah, as far as smooth and unblemished hands, I just feel like I have the ugliest hands, but thank you. I feel I haven't really taken care of them. I'm often just in a hurry and don't wear gloves, and I don't put lotion on them and moisturize them like I should. And as far as, you know, getting paint on myself, I think, you know, I almost daily paint, so I just wear my daily clothes, you know, all the time. And I don't know, is it just from, you know, painting so much already that I just have learned to be, you know, more careful. But it's not to say that I don't get some paint on myself now and then. Usually, actually right there I have a spot. Yeah, usually somewhere on my being I have paint. The next question here is, not sure if you answered this before, but when you painted the stripes, do you take the tape off immediately or do you wait until it's completely dry? I usually take the tape off when the paint is still wet, because sometimes if you wait until it's dry, you guys probably know how that works. You know, you peel your tape off and some of the paint comes with it. I know you have to be more careful if you peel it off while the paint's still wet, just to make sure you don't, you know, get it, you know, smeared somewhere else. But I think it kind of works the best for me if I do it that way. Mary Schultz is saying, I thought your parents moved to Florida, so I was wondering how your mom would get her sign. That was the laundry room sign. Then I was surprised when you were in there hanging the sign. Did they move back or just travel back and forth? They are usually just in Florida for the winter. I guess I didn't make that clear. So the next question here is Terry Anonymous asking. She says, Mary, besides making everything look absolutely beautiful, you make everything look so easy. I love watching your videos. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Now for a very strange question, I'm sure. The next time you do a Q&A, could you please talk about why the Amish girls have their teeth removed, and did you have yours removed? It doesn't look like it. I have done a lot of research on this, but have never gotten an answer from an Amish person who would know best. I had to smile with that. I have never heard about that. That's the first I've ever heard of Amish girls removing their teeth. Goodness, that would be horrible. I, of course, know a lot of Amish people and know that has never happened. I'm not sure where some of that information comes from, if you even call it information, but I just feel, sadly, there are a lot of kind of weird stuff out there, you know, about the Amish. Just don't believe everything you hear, guys. They're just normal people like everyone else, even if they live their lives a little bit different. You know, they don't do weird things like that, so I'm not sure where that comes from. I'd be curious where you heard something like that. So the next set of questions are from the Tablescape Comments. Sandra says, I love your tablescapes, thank you. May I ask what you use as napkins? They look thick and full. I like that idea. It's kind of funny because when I did those tablescapes, I at the time didn't have any, I still don't have any cloth napkins that are white. And I wanted that, you know, white napkin look. So I just used tea towels that I had on hand. So the next question here is, I have to ask, knowing you are you, did you still get the old one fixed? She's talking about the old sewing machine. Yes, I did. Is that the answer you were expecting? I like my old sewing machine, and I'm always thinking sometimes, you know, we've had times where we've had a couple sewing machines going or would have had use for a couple of them. It's always a good second one to use. It's definitely has a lot more rattles and isn't as, nice and new as my new one is, which I just love, but I'll definitely hang on to it until it, probably gives out for good. So the last set of questions are from the home tour. You guys asked such good questions. I wish I had time to answer them all, but so the first question here is, I'm wondering about your son's bedrooms. Do they like your design input? Have you ever done decorating in there with them? I eventually want to do like a tour of the upstairs, but their bedrooms, boys, they're kind of messy and usually not ready for, to take a video of. The oldest one really doesn't care how I decorate his room. He's okay with anything. He'll just kind of let me go in there, but the youngest kind of has his own taste. Like he'll want to order some things for his room. And I admit sometimes it's probably not my taste, but I want his room to be him, so it's okay, whatever he puts in there. He actually just recently made something really beautiful for his room, and I'll make sure to show you guys, but he used spray paint and kind of created a big poster of, it looks like the universe, and it's really neat. I need to definitely show you guys, but when he hung it in his room, he kind of hung it way up high, and I tried to persuade him to just lower it a couple inches because I thought it didn't look right up there with the ceiling, but he thought being it's kind of an outer space theme or scene, it should be up high, so I'm not sure where we'll end up with that, but sometimes you just have to kind of let them go. I guess they have their own taste, and I want them to let that come out. The next question, are the birds all really in your garden? I would love to have them identified. Yes, I did use all clips from my gardens when I had the birds in the background. Now sometimes I would have other, weird noises in some of my videos where I switched the audio with a section that didn't have weird noises, but most of the time they were actually on that video. I'm sure a lot of the time you probably heard the Carolina wren. Wood thrush, my favorite bird is the wood thrush, like the song. And then down here in what we call the meadow down here, we have a common yellowthroat warbler. They're so pretty. I love their song. I know that was in the video too, but I guess I should have identified them maybe another time. So Joanne Carr says, I love the dress you were wearing in today's video. Can you let me know where you got it? And sure, I got it from Amazon, I believe. I will make sure to leave the link down below in the description box in case you're interested in it. So the next question here is, Darlene K says, you have a piece of heaven. I could listen to those birds singing all day. Did that bird have a nest in your planter hanging by the door? Yes, it does. And I kind of regret ever letting it build a nest in there, guys. It's so cute. I love watching them, but I'm so worried about them. I have 2 cats, and of course this is so tempting for them to sit underneath their nest and just, watch them all ominous-like. And those wrens just scold and scold. They don't scold much when we're sitting out there. Like I can sit on the porch swing and they'll just fly in their nest and feed their young and just kind of ignore me. But if a cat comes along, they will just scold and scold. I actually hear one scolding right now, and it's probably because my 2 cats are just right here with me and I'm not even close to the nest. They just hate our cats. And even today I was sitting inside working on my computer right inside the window, and little Pebbles was on the floor beside me. And I'm not kidding, this little wren, feisty thing, came and sat on the railing and looked inside and started scolding. She saw Pebbles inside the window. It's so funny. They're so cute, but so loud and just scolding, and I almost feel responsible for them. I feel like when they start scolding, they're actually calling me. They're kind of being a tattletale, I guess. They're calling me to come and get the cats off the porch, and often I'll do that. They start scolding and I'll just open the door and just let the cat in so they stop and have peace out there. But it's really been almost a nuisance. I'm just so glad when those young are out of there. I'm just, again, so worried about them. And even today, for the first time, I just saw one of the parents feeding the little birds. So I'm just so worried. I'm afraid one of my cats, ate the other parent. Again, next time I probably just wouldn't let them build a nest right there on the porch. I think it's just too dangerous for them. So the next question here is, Sally Crow says, I adore your home and garden, so peaceful. You've probably caught it or someone else has pointed it out, but check your spelling on Shakespeare. Guys, I was so embarrassed. I still am. I got that beautiful quote. I just love that quote. Online, I looked it up on a site, and they had actually spelled Shakespeare incorrectly, which I should have followed my instinct. I thought all along that does not look right, and I should have looked it up elsewhere too just to make sure, and I didn't, you know, being in the hurry that I usually am, and I definitely changed it. So if you do end up ordering that quote, you know, from my Etsy shop, it will have the correct spelling. But thanks to you guys for telling me about it. I appreciate it. Dawn is saying, thank you for sharing. Where did you get your bedding from? And did you ever find those blue dishes you were looking for your plate rack? The bedding, I will leave a link down below from Amazon. I love that bedding. And I still have not found blue dishes that fit my plate rack. It's my own fault. I did not, the plate rack, when I made it, I just kind of guessed on, you know, the shelf spacing. And I managed to, I'm still borrowing my sister's blue onion plates. Hers are just a little bit smaller than most. I think they're more, maybe 9.5 or 10 inches. And I think your normal plate, maybe 10.5 or something like that. But I was just blown away again, guys. But some of you actually sent me blue onion plates. I thank you so much. You did not need to do that, but I appreciate it. I love those dishes, even if they didn't fit the plate rack. I use them elsewhere. They look beautiful displayed on my buffet. I'm sure someday I will have a fancy garden party and then use those plates. I can't wait. So I do really love those dishes, but maybe I'll end up just adjusting my shelf on my plate rack. Maybe I'll end up doing that if I don't find any, but for now, my sister kindly let me use hers, so I will just continue to do that until I find some. The next question here is, I'm wondering where you get the brown craft paper posters, especially the 10 Commandments one. I used to sell those on my Etsy shop. At first, I would use my vinyl decals and put them onto the paper and sell them that way. But as I got busier, that really got hard to do because it's really hard to transfer some of those decals onto paper. You just have one chance to get it right, and then you can't really peel it off and redo it because you're going to ruin the paper, of course. So I did end up finding someone to print them for me, which is really hard to do. You need a special printer to print on that brown craft paper, and that ended up not working out. Long story, I won't get into it, but it did not work out to get them printed at the place that, you know, did at one point. And I even thought about just investing in my own printer, but they're so pricey. I wasn't sure, do I want to do that? I've still thought about doing that, and if I ever find anyone that is able to, you know, print them for me willingly, I definitely will get them to do it, because I know a lot of you would probably like some of the designs that I still have. You know, the 10 Commandments one, that's also one of my favorite. So maybe I'll need to check into that again. I got some questions about the dragonfly pillow and then the bee pillow on the front porch. Ann McMillan is asking about it here, but I did get a lot of questions about it. But those are just pillows from Walmart, their gardening section. I think I gave $5 a piece for them. Connie Bird is asking, is the water running through your garden man-made or natural? The one pond, the little water garden out in front of the house, is actually just our spring. We have a spring here in our property. We used to use it for our water, like in our house, but we don't anymore. The spring kind of went bad for us, but we still use it on our outdoor, you know, hydrants, and then for our laundry we still use it, but just not for, you know, drinking purposes. But our pond in the front yard is an overflow from that, so whatever, you know, rises above that cistern deep into the ground kind of flows out over the rocks there in that pond. So that's really cold, clear water. Love it. And then the backyard one is just pumped with an electric pump. And then Susan Parker asks, how do you keep your pond so weed-free? Have you used chemicals? How deep is it? I am hand pulling cattails. Yeah, that would not be a fun job. We actually had debated several years ago to use chemicals for our pond, and I'm so glad we didn't. They persuaded us at the pond place. It's a place about maybe 10 miles from here. It's called Fender's Fish Hatchery, and they sell chemicals and they also sell fish. So they persuaded us to put about 5 or 6 of those white aimers in our pond. Armor aimers, I think is what they're called. And they take care of all the algae in there. So they keep it clear for us. It took a few years for them to get it cleaned up, but now it is pretty much weed-free. And we do want to aerate it. That's probably the next step. We want to work on trying to get our pond, you know, cleaner. And they say to aerate it is probably the best thing. So we want to definitely try to do that maybe this summer. But as far as using chemicals, they really advised us not to. And I'm, again, glad we didn't. And how deep is it? I know it used to be about 9 foot deep in the middle. But with all the years of, debris piling up, it's probably only, I don't know, would it be 6 feet, or I'm not even sure, but there's definitely a deep layer of muck on the bottom. That's something else we kind of want to work with eventually, but for now that's the way it is. The next question here is, what type of transfer tape is that what you're using with the Cameo? I probably have a one-of-a-kind transfer tape, guys, because I just keep using the same tape over and over again. I buy the Frisco brand, I think it's called, and I'll try to leave a link down below in the description box for it, because it is an awesome transfer tape. But for myself, again, I'm always in a hurry, and I do a lot of signs, I create a lot of things, so I don't want to just waste a new piece always anyway. And for me, it's just so much easier to have a piece that's all, kind of dirty and not as sticky anymore. It's just so much easier for me to transfer it that way. Sometimes I will even just take the piece over surfaces like the sofa and the carpet, and just to make it less sticky. It's just so much easier to work with. So the next question here is AW asking, how are the privacy How are the privacy pieces supported? I need something to that effect, but the wind is a great concern. I just screwed the pieces into the railing. So far it's worked pretty well that way. We did have a very nasty windstorm here about a month ago. In fact, our neighbor had almost like a small twister at his house. Trees actually blew down, and we had lots of branches down, and they seemed to hold. I know the one end I actually forgot to fasten, put a screw in, and that it was a little bit crooked, but it still held. So that kind of seemed to work, just screws into the railing. So the next question here is Sandy asking about, she has 2 questions. Are you growing catnip in your garden? I saw the cat eating something. I was thinking of growing some for all the neighbors' cats that come over. Well, that's kind of you. But yeah, she was, I think it was Pebbles, was chewing on my cat mint, which that's the same thing as the catnip. They do like that. It's kind of amazing, but they really enjoy the chewing on that. And also the question 2 here is, do you have a lot of spider webs around your porches and in the shed? We do, and it seems I can't keep up with them. We do have a lot of spiders. Again, I'm probably weird in that way, but I don't mind spiders. I'm just not, I never was really afraid of spiders. I mean, not that I just welcome them into my home or anything, but I'm even known to sometimes rescue them in my house and just let them outside. I just don't feel like killing them. I feel they can't really help that they're there, and I know they're good for your gardens. We do sometimes spray around the house just to, like a home defense thing, to try to keep some of them out of the house, because, we don't want spiders in our house. But if I see them out in the garden, I just think they look kind of cute, and I just kind of let them go. But yeah, we definitely have a lot of them around here. So that pretty much concludes today's video. I realize my lighting probably isn't the best here. It's almost 9 o'clock, so it's getting kind of dark, but hopefully you can still, see me here. But I always I love filming on the outside. I feel like the lighting's always better, and I of course love the sounds out here, and my cats are here with me. And right now we are having really hot days here in Ohio, so of course our window air conditioners are running, and they're so loud. I feel like it drowns out all the nice sounds outside, so that's kind of why I really enjoy just coming out here. Like I always say in my Q&A videos, I always feel like they're probably kind of boring. They're probably not quite my cup of tea to film, but yet I want to do them because I always feel bad that I don't get to answer any questions on YouTube or Instagram. I apologize for not answering any messages. I just simply don't have the time, so I don't even start. But I feel like this way, through just doing a Q&A once a month, I at least can get to some of them. Hopefully it was somewhat of a help to you guys. I appreciate you watching. Thank you for that. And as always, I hope you're having a great week, and I look forward to seeing you in next week's video. Bye.